Hi friends, today we are going to talk about object-oriented programming in JavaScript. So the basic principle of object-oriented programming is the state and the operation on that state should be in the same block, meaning like if you define some variables in object and define some methods in that object, and all those should be in one block and should operate on those variables. Yeah, we'll go into details each and everything. So there are different ways to work with the object-oriented programming in JavaScript. So those are um, factory functions, function constructor, and object create. And also we can also do this using the ES6 class, and there is an example that I just um, worked on. So I can show you that with example. So let's go to the factory function. First one is factory function. So first we'll see the code and why we need factory function, how we can do that. So I just put one example already here. Let's say you have like where object user1, right? The user can have a first name and last name, and also we defined one method that is function that is returning um, the person's first name and last name, right? So this function is also within the same object. Similarly, I created another object user2 that has the first name, last name, and the same method, right? So if you observe clearly here, we have the common function get full name in both the objects. So that means we are repeating the full name object in every object, right? So that's why we have a concept of factory function. The function that returns the function is the factory function. So in order to remove this repetition of the code, I created a factory function here. So this one here. So the person, right? So we created a common function, factory function that's called person here. That is taking two parameters, first name and last name, and it's returning a object, right, with the first name and last name, and the function that is using the first name and last name, right? So instead of repeating this in two objects, we put it in only one place. So whenever we call this person, it will return the object along with its function. So how we can test it here is you can call this function by passing these parameters first name and last name. You'll get this object back, and also you can once you get this object, you can call this function on that, right? So here basically we're not repeating the code. Instead of that, we created a common function that's called factory function, and we are using the factory function to create functions out of that factory function. So we can just quickly test this. Let's test this one first. User3 should be printing the function, right? It's returning the function. It's not returning the actual value from this one because we are not making get full name here, right? So let's print first what happens. So you see here, it's first printing the user3. So here also we printed user1. That's confusing here, right? So we don't need the first one here. Let's remove that. So you see the output here. So it's printing the person first name, last name, and also it printed the get full name. Basically, it's a function, so it's not the actual. So we can invoke the function on this right now. Get full name. So function, we can use this one. So function's full name is Eric R. So it's returned the full name. So that means it's got executed. So and also similarly, we can print the other one. Just to see if it works for different objects. So functions. So it's working for every new function, every new call to the factory function, right? So this is how we can make sure we don't repeat the code in case. But here is you might have already noticed there is a problem. So every time when I make a call to the factory function, it's also creating this get full name function, right? So that basically it's creating another function every time. So that's creating an object with this function is always expensive, right? So instead we can create this function somewhere in the common place and use that for every um, invocation of the class or function, right? So that's how we are going to do in the next example. That's a constructor function. So that's what we mentioned, like construction function, right? So what is a construction function here? So as the name says, it's a constructor function. Sorry, this one, not this one. Yep, this one. So we are creating the constructor here, right? So since we are talking about constructor and all this, so this is a class. Basically, this is how we can create a constructor, uh, and the name of that function will be starting with a capital letter always because it's treated like a class. If you work on Java and other object-oriented, class-based object-oriented programming, you will already know that this what it means. Like all the class names always starts with capital letter. So basically here I'm creating a constructor, right? It's a function, just takes like two parameters, same as before. But other thing is here, like you notice here, we are using user this function dot the prototype. So basically, and we are assigning, we are saying like get full name, the definition of the get full name here. So technically, what is happening here is when we say the prototype of on any of this object, sorry, function or the class. So what it means is it's creating basically this get full name will be shared across all the instances of this user class. So here you see just I created let's go ahead a little bit more than. So after we I will come back here. So first I created one object using the new operator. So new user. So what it means is like it will create an instance of the user class here. So and it's taking the two parameters. This is like a constructor, right? It's calling the constructor, taking the two parameters, first name and last name, and it will when we make a call here, it's going to come here and assign these values to um, this class. So it's creating a one instance, user one instance with these properties, first name and last name, and these will values will be this one. So it's creating an object, and it will have like we can print it and see what's going on here instead of this. And before that, let's comment this constructor func.js. So this here it's creating the user object with the first name and last name are the props. So similarly, it's going to happen for the user 2. So but here, if you have the prototype, it's going to add this get full name definition to each instance. The same instance, it's a shared across these two instances. It's not per instance. That's a high level definition of prototype. So now since we got the object back right from the user, we can make a call to the shared function. So you can take either one this instance or this instance, but let's call this one and see what's going to happen. So user full name, we got the user full name, right? So still we got it. This is the main advantage of having the common functions in the prototype. So one thing to remember here is if you want to keep something that is common to everything, you can do using prototype, and which is unique to that specific instance, that will go to the constructor. And also these variables within this prototype function will not be shared with instances, and these are resolved using the prototype chaining. And let's also we can do this prototype using the object create. That's another example. So this is another way of doing. That's the third one I mentioned here. So basically, object that creates an object that has a specified prototype, right? So whatever you pass it, this will consider as a prototype to create a new object. So since we defined user as a object with the get full name as a function inside this one, so then it will create another object or create an object using this prototype. So if you look back, look this one. So this is created, and the if you look at the code in the debug, underscore proto of this one will be the proto will be referencing to this user object. This is very simple here. And here what we are doing, we are declared one object, and we created a another object using this as a prototype. And here we are overriding the first name and last name of this one. So we can say something v1 override 2, let's say something like that. So let's test this one. Object create. We didn't print anything, sorry. Can put something. Full name. So full name is printed. So that basically we are able to create the prototype, and also able to um, call the function from this object. It's pretty simple, but it's just another way of doing using the prototype. And lastly, I'm going to show how we can do that construction function, right? So here we talked about creating the prototype and also creating the instance of this. And with ES6, we can also use the class based. Basically, technically this is a class, but in ES5, the class and the constructor are not there. So in ES6 syntax, we can do the same example like this. So here we have the class keyword and the class name, and also we have a keyword constructor, and the constructor takes two parameters, first name and last name, and we are assigning these two values to the object. And also this is a method that's going to work on this class. It's going to use these variables. So this is very simple again. So here we created two instances, 1 and 2, and everything is same as before. So and everything should work same. Only difference, this is basically the difference. The difference is in the syntactical sugar of the existing constructor function declaration. So every time whenever you want to create a class using ES6, we'll just define this way: class name and the constructor, and takes two parameters and the method that you want. Again the same logic. If you want to keep something common, so that will go outside the construction function, any methods or functions, and if something is common to each instance, that will go inside this constructor. So here what we are doing here, we created two instances and we are calling the method in that class. So I chosen like user1 here, and then calling the get full name. So we expect this name back when we run this one. So let's run this one. Function with class. So Robert Cohn. So also we can try this out, the other one. So that it works the same way. I think that's all for today. Thank you so much.